Now the first question goes like this. In law, a man is guilty when he violates the rights of others. In ethics, he is guilty if he only thinks of doing so. And the key word is justify. It means you need to support this statement with some sort of evaluation and examination of this statement. Now, this statement was made by the famous deontological scholar Immanuel Kant. Now, Kant is a deontological scholar. Deontologists are those who place the morality and the action of the moral agent and not at the outcomes of the action, which the consequentialists do, for example. Now, as per him, he is saying that under law you are guilty if you violate the rights of others, but under ethics you are guilty if you only think of violating. It means you have not violated, but you have just thought of violating, and then you are guilty. Now, why is this difference between ethics and laws? You see, laws are externally ordained. It means there is always an external source from where the laws come into picture. These sources can be, say for example, the constitution, the parliament, or any other authority which has the power of enacting laws. So the laws are always externally ordained. But if you look at ethics, ethics are internally driven. Now, there is also, you see, that ethics are nothing but some sort of social accepted standards of behavior over which there is a consensus in the total society, but ultimately it is your internal consciousness that helps you acknowledge that societal standard. So therefore, you can say that ethics is internally motivated mostly, whereas laws are externally ordained. Laws are objective in nature. It means they work between black and white. It means you can understand that under law, few things are permitted and few things are prohibited. That is how laws are enacted. But ethics are subjective in nature. There is another difference between law and ethics is laws are objective in nature, whereas ethics are subjective in nature. If you look at the same moral agent, or if you look at the same action from a deontological, from a utilitarian or a virtue ethics viewpoint, you can come to different conclusions, and therefore ethics is often subjective. Now, at times you see ethics becomes source for the formation of laws, but once the ethical principles are translated into legal principles, the objectivity kicks in. Clear? Now, there are always some sort of, you can say, discretion in the laws, but discretion should not be confused with subjectivity, because when the clauses are enacted, they are mostly objective in nature. Now, the basic difference between law and ethics is law judges an action once it is commissioned. It means only after the performance of the action, law judges it, whereas ethics judges the action right at the stage of conception. It means before you have performed the action, but you have just thought of it, ethics judges the action. See, your thoughts give birth to your action. Law judges your actions, but ethics judges both your thoughts as well as your actions. Now, let us look at this statement with the help of few examples. Now, say for example, if you commit murder, then definitely you will be booked under the IPCC, the CRPC, etc. It means you have committed a murder and hence you have fallen foul of the law, you are guilty and thus you will be punished. But if you just harbor thoughts of murdering, no one can throw you in the jail or put a charge sheet against you. But from the ethical viewpoint, thinking of committing murder is also evil, because ethics give you the moral consciousness to separate the right from the wrong, the good from the bad. Similarly, you can take another example. Say for example, you outrage the modesty of a woman, then definitely you have fallen foul of the law. But if you just think of doing so, then you are still ethically wrong. Though you may be legally, you cannot be charged with, but ethically you are still wrong. Do you understand this? But this statement is not always correct, because societies evolve, therefore laws change, and also the ethical principles, they evolve. Let me give you an example. So think of this. Think of suicide. Now if you see that the Supreme Court has decriminalized suicide, or section 309 of the IPC is decriminalized now. So if somebody commits suicide or attempts to commit suicide and that person escapes, then he cannot be thrown into the jail, because that section has been turned into null and void by the apex court. But still, in the society, few people might think that this person is ethically wrong, because it is not correct to take your own life. Another example would be adultery. Now recently, you know, Supreme Court has given a decision with respect to the provision in the IPC which relates to adultery. Now adultery maybe is not any longer legally punishable, but many might see in the society still from the ethical viewpoint it as an evil. Other examples could be abortion. Like if you think of doing an abortion, some societies might consider it ethically correct, some societies might consider it ethically wrong. Whereas suppose some societies which consider it ethically correct, the laws prohibit it. So it is ethically correct but legally wrong. Similarly, there can be societies where it is still considered ethically wrong but legally it is permitted. You can also think of other examples like LGBT community, or the LGBTQ as you want to call it. Now look here, many societies may have acknowledged their rights through legal provisions, but still maybe from the ethical viewpoint they still feel that this is unnatural and thus should not be allowed to thrive in the society. Similarly, there can be societies where it is ethically considered correct and they feel that say for example, it is not proper to judge the people belonging to these communities, but legally suppose the laws still prohibit it. So you can understand that this statement which was made by Immanuel Kant is not a universal statement. It means it is not true in all the cases. The main difference between law and ethics is that law judges the action only after its commission, whereas ethics judges the action right at the point of its conception. Clear? But how would you conclude this answer? The conclusion should go like this, that ethics and laws both are complementary to each other. In fact, the major aim of law is to establish social order. And since ethics often becomes the source of law, ethics also indirectly manages social order. But there is a greater task assigned to ethics. It is to create moral beings, or a good and fair society. So therefore, if you want to create a good civilization, you need both ethics and laws. In fact, only when the laws stop, the ethics come into picture, and then you can understand that a proper societal organization is created. So that is what was the demand for this question. Let us move to the next question.